Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. It is nice to have a prolonged break in the rain. Although, since I live in the valley, I'm keeping my eyes peeled on that Tulare Lake situation and just wondering what 235% of snowfall is going to mean for the Central Valley here this spring. So, and I'm surrounded by levees here in my 3-story townhouse in downtown Sacramento. So, putting all the valuables up off the first floor already. The document safe, that's all moved to upper levels. I'm going to go ahead and find my share button here. On Google, it's the Present Now button. Yes.
It's under more. Yep.
There we go.
Present Now.
Great. Okay, so you can all see my Allied Advantage screen. Sweet. Thanks. Yep. Let me get over to another screen for myself. Yeah. So a quick thank you to everyone and Paul for asking me to chime in with just a refresher for many of you. For some of you that are newer to Collins, we haven't done one of these in quite a while. How I've based the presentation is really focusing the first part on the law, and then we're going to move into some the primary tool that we utilize with Collins once we get past that very first major, well, not the first, it's the second step, but it's the major component of protecting the assets of all of your nonprofit organization clients, and that's the recording of the lien. So your accounting team is critical at Collins. They provide us with excellent quality work. Thank you all. When it comes to providing us with ledgers or updates, or if we find something that maybe has happened in the past with a prior management company, your accounting team is right there on the spot to help us wade through problems and fix and correct things. And so we really appreciate that team at Collins. We don't have that same relationship with some of our clients. We very much appreciate the one that we have with the Collins team. So like I said, I'll talk quickly about well, not so quickly. We go in depth about a handful of things with regard to the law. There are a lot of laws that impact what we do, what we're able to do, and how and why we do things the way we do here at Allied. Our responsibility to you and your clients is to make sure that we're moving forward with defensible collection accounts. When I'm talking to you about the law today, I want you to think of those hopefully rare occurrences when you have a particularly disgruntled homeowner. And just imagine that they are a litigious type. So it means sometimes that Allied may have a more conservative approach to some things than others, but it also keeps us all out of the courtroom and off of the 10 o'clock news. That's kind of how we don't want to be on the news. We don't want you to be on the news, and we don't want cameras outside a board meeting. I don't know if any of you follow the comedian John Oliver and his HBO television show last night, this week last night or something. And just recently he did a 25-minute thing on homeowner associations, calling out one of your large multi-state competitors. It was interesting. Now, of course, he always goes for as any entertainment show, they're going to go after dramatic examples. And he did, but we've all met those people. The HOA boards, but I live in an HOA. I live in a great HOA. I know a lot of my neighbors here in a 60 some odd unit townhouse project in Midtown Sacramento. But I also know a couple of my neighbors that are real problems. So again, our job is to help keep us all off the news and out of court. So here's some of the laws that we deal with. FDCPA is the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It was enacted about 45 years ago, and just within the past couple of years, they did the very first update. It was an 800-page update. and it impacted some of the way we do things. You can imagine that 45 years ago, there were no rules about how debt collectors of any kind could contact a debtor via email or text message or voicemails. And so that's just a part of what was updated, and it was important that they do that. But another aspect of that means that we also send out here down on the bottom this new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau debt validation notice. That's additional work that we now have to do on every file that you send to us. We've got to send an owner this multi-page debt validation notice. It even requires us to put the little icon of scissors where they, in a dashed line that they can cut across the bottom of that page, put it in an envelope and send it back to us. That stops our process temporarily while we run a complete debt validation offer for them. That new federal required notice goes out with every pre-lien letter that Allied sends to your homeowner members now. The second bullet point, the Rosenthal Act, is officially known as the Rosenthal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It's California's version of the FDCPA, and there are portions of the Rosenthal Act that are certainly more restrictive than federal law, and some of them can apply to management companies. And so we've worked with Collins over the years to make sure that your internal processes are not just compliant with the letter of the law, but really in the spirit of the law. Again, this goes back to having that one disgruntled homeowner that wants to start pulling on a thread that's going to unravel all of our important collections work, and could mean legal fees to an association and a management company and a collection company. The Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act, of course, you're all familiar with that, but there's a portion of Davis-Sterling that relates to something very specific called the non-judicial lien and foreclosure process. The non-judicial part means that the association, common interest developments within California, were given this special process that can be much less expensive than judicial foreclosure, and it can be time-bound and not subject to the court calendar of whatever county that you're having to take this owner to superior court for in a judicial foreclosure. These things labeled new, I already covered the CFPB debt validation notice, and these other two are new in that they've come out in the past couple of years. The Debt Collection Licensing Act. California was one of 12 states that had no requirements to be a debt collector. We supported, as a business, we supported this Debt Collection Licensing Act. We have obtained our license just earlier this year. We finally received our notice, and we had to go through submitting a lot of financial data about the company, about our principals, submitting fingerprints, background checks, all sorts of things that we will have to continue to do on an ongoing basis. There was quite a bit of debate within our industry among the attorney firms that help not only your associations, but also the attorney firms to management companies, because the Debt Collection Licensing Act could be interpreted to extend even to what your accounting team is doing. Just this last August, the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation posted something on their FAQ page that said that the pursuit of assessment debt was not something that was considered as falling underneath the Debt Collection Licensing Act. Unfortunately, the legislature has not clarified that. And so until we either get a cleanup bill passed, and of course our CAI CLAC committees will be on the lookout for that, or until something goes to court, we're still taking a pretty conservative approach here. We are not encouraging our firms like our client firms like Collins to get licensed as debt collectors. However, there are some management companies out there that like to do a lot of their own collections work in-house, and their attorney firms are still questioning if this law might extend to them or not. I'll go very quickly over some of these laws here because we'll touch on a couple of them again. Epstein, Grinnell and Howell, which is now known as Epstein APC, is a large and well-respected HOA law firm based in San Diego. They had a court case go all the way up to the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, and they lost. And it had to do with how they wrote their letters to homeowners. The law firm, in doing collection work, said that an owner had 30 days to respond to their letter. Well, their letter was overshadowing over here FDCPA, federal law, which says that you have to give a homeowner time, or rather you have to give the U.S. Postal Service time to send messages out, your demand letter, and for an owner to respond to them. So they had a lot of files that were invalidated due to that. Allied, again, because we're a little more conservative in our approach, we appreciated that the FDCPA, federal law, was already stating that we have to do that. It didn't affect any of Allied's accounts. And that was certainly a win for us. The Goldilocks case, gosh, and I can't say that out loud without thinking Goldilocks. The Goldilocks was also in the U.S. Ninth Circuit, and it says that if a homeowner has a successful discharge, a successful completion of a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, that they are no longer personally liable for any future assessments in an HOA. This case came from a Washington State HOA, and they have immediate lien rights. And that's not the way it works in California. So if a homeowner has a successful discharge of a Chapter 13, it means that we had to update our notices a little bit. We can still record liens on properties, but it means that if a lender forecloses and they've had a successful bankruptcy in their past, we can't take them to court anymore. So we're paying very careful attention to how Goldilocks and this next one, the Highland Green versus DeGillen, how they impact your accounts with us, especially those accounts that have been with a collection firm for a period of time. Maybe the homeowner has delay tactics, whatever it is. The Highland Greens case indicated that an HOA might need to record multiple liens on a property. So the whole point of the Davis-Sterling Act creating this non-judicial process was to establish the ongoing nature of the lien. And we'll talk about this in just a moment, but I just want to point out what the court said here. And I'm quoting directly from the decision in this California case. This is the judge writing. While we acknowledge that requiring homeowner associations to file successive liens imposes a burden, that is an issue for the legislature to address. So it means that while we used to only record one lien for a property, we might have to record multiple liens now. Allied's process is always to reach out to you and have a discussion with the board of whether we need to do this or not. And we'll get to that in a moment. This latest one here is against ALS, Associated Lien Services, and Swedelson Gottlieb, a highly regarded HOA law firm based in Los Angeles, but they also have a San Francisco office. The decision was a $5 million judgment, not only against ALS, but also Swedelson Gottlieb, and also the owners, Mr. Swedelson and Mrs. Gottlieb, personally. This is a big deal for them. It has caused Allied to make a language adjustment in one of our notices to homeowners. The big challenge here is also with regard to partial payments. And you may see that Allied will put on hold a file if a homeowner has made a significant partial payment where they're paying down assessment debt. We're testing how long we can keep this file open before we're going to have to close it and send you an invoice. So it's going to be, I'm just raising this as an awareness to you managers. It may mean that we might actually have to send some invoices your way every now and then. We're not happy about it, but unless we get some legislative assistance here, it might impact our business. When that happens, we're going to reach out and talk to you about it. Recurring issues here, and these have been raising their head here a little more frequently lately. Rejecting partial payments is not new. That is a decision. This Huntington Continental Townhomes case goes back 8 years or more now, if I recall correctly, maybe even 9. It means that an association has to, or a collection company, we have to accept any payment that a homeowner makes when they're in collections. The file originated because the homeowner had a large debt, several $1,000s. He presented a board member, in fact, I think it was the board president, with a certified, with a cashier's check for $3,000. It was a big chunk. The board president said, "Thank you so much. I'm going to get this to our collection agency." And the collection agency said, "Nope, it's not full payment," and they proceeded to foreclosure. The homeowner took them to court, Mr. Minor. They lost. And the courts clarified that, yeah, if a homeowner makes a payment, you have to apply that to the assessment debt first. And had they done that, it would have precluded any further action against foreclosure. So Collins is great about that. That isn't an issue. It has been an issue with some other management companies, though, because of the proliferation of electronic portals. That's really a courtesy to members in good standing. And you can certainly cut off that access for homeowners that are delinquent. When your accounting team sends them to us, they can shut off those electronic options. However, we need to make sure that that homeowner knows how they can make that payment in another manner, whether it's sending it to Collins, dropping it off at your office, sending it to a P.O. box, however you've chosen to notify them. And a best practice is not only to put it in the collection policy, but if they go to make their payments and they're late, then some of those payment portal options that an association may choose to contract with may have, if they're late, it may pop up and say, if you continue to be late, you can't make a payment this way. Here's the address you have to send it to. Or if an association chooses to send out late notices, then that late notice, if there's a threat to say, you've got to pay this or you may be sent to collections. If you're sent to collections, here's how you have to make your payment. As long as those things are on, and we've worked with Collins in the past on this, so it isn't an issue. But you may find as you acquire associations from other management companies, that may be something to look at. What's been their practice in the past? The board and the homeowners may not be familiar with that. Of course, communicating amounts to owners. I don't recall this in any recent history being a problem with any Collins community. It's important that board members and managers or team members at Collins answering the phone when a homeowner calls in and wants a balance on their account. If that account is in collections, you send them to whoever the collection provider is. We'll tell them what the balance is. Quoting an inaccurate amount, especially if it's a lower amount, can actually invalidate the file. And it means that either the management company or the association is going to have to pay some fees and costs from the collection company. We had a file here in your backyard. It was down in Emeryville, and the acquiring management company noticed that there were 2 accounts for an owner. Happened to be because the owner had been in bankruptcy. So she had a pre-petition bankruptcy balance and a post-petition account. On the pre-petition amount, the accounting team accurately suppressed statements. So no statement communications were going out to that owner. However, because they had a second account, they started sending her statements. And each month, this owner in her bankruptcy was making her payment for her debt every month, very reliably, was making her way through bankruptcy successfully. Additionally, she was making her regular monthly assessment payments every month. Well, when the new management company took over and they started to send her statements, her balance said zero every month. And after 12 months of this, her bankruptcy attorney went to the bankruptcy trustee and said, hey, this HOA says she doesn't owe anymore, and successfully argued that she no longer had any remaining debt with the HOA. That was a $30,000 hit to the management company because she still owed $30,000 on her old debt. So just as a reminder, when a homeowner tries to corner you at a meeting, or they call in, or somehow they get your cell phone number and they're badgering you because they want to know how much they owe, you direct them to the accounting team, or you, if you happen to know that they're with Allied, you give them Allied's number. Just a caution there. This is a tool that I use whenever I do manager training. It is also something that you can include in board member packets. If you ever have a board, maybe you've taken over an association that their prior management company was terrible at collections and you've got to help clean it up, or maybe you've got a new board that is unfamiliar with collections, you are welcome to reach out to me and ask me if I can zoom in and do a quick collections training class. I don't go over all the law like I just have with you, but I do go over this document. I think it's important that board members see that there are many steps in the process, in the non-judicial lien and foreclosure process. All these boxes represent a different statutorily required step in the process. And this second one is the one that's the most important. And we get to as quickly as we can. When your board says, when they take a look at their collection policy, and the collection policy says if you're late 60 days or you're late 90 days, we can send you to collections. Well, that's when your accounting team at Collins gets involved and they send us a new account. At this very first stage, we send out this notice of intent to lien, commonly called the pre-lien letter. We also have to send in that newly required Consumer Financial Protection Bureau validation notice. We send that in the same envelope. And we almost immediately send to Collins the authorization to record NODA, Notice of Delinquent Assessment, or the lien. So we send that back to you almost right away for you to put in your next month's board packet. Here you'll see that it says 30 days. Well, that's because that's what Davis Sterling wrote. They're keeping us from moving forward faster than 30 days, but federal law, we've got to add that that was clarified by that lawsuit against our law firm friends down in Southern California. In effect, this is about 45 days for Allied, 42 to 45 days. And then we finally get here to the notice of delinquent assessment. Those of you that have received these notices here, the authorization to record NODA, even on that form, we call out the section of civil code that says this is to be discussed in open session. And we encourage you to use internal account numbers. Don't identify the property by the name of the homeowner or even the address. We prefer you use something that doesn't call out the owner by name. And then the association sends that back to us and we get that lien recorded. And I'm going to talk about the importance of that in just a moment. But all these other steps, we're regularly reaching out to you as the manager to present something to the board. And I say this to you because I think it's important that boards understand that there may be a fear that they're sending their neighbor to collections. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm friendly with a lot of my neighbors. You know, we socialize in the courtyard, and you know, we celebrate kids' birthday parties, and we were doing COVID bingo in the courtyard for a while. It was, you know, it was a lot of fun. We do movie nights and stuff. It would be hard to send a neighbor to collections, but as a board member, I've also got to wear my fiduciary hat. I've got a responsibility to the community. But what I like to let board members know is that just because they're sending someone to collections doesn't mean that the collections company, Allied, is just going to march down the road to eviction and foreclosure without coming back to the board repeatedly for their consideration and consultation. And for all of you, you should know that over 50% of our files pay in full when we get to the post-lien stage, and less than 2% ever get to trustee sale. And a disproportionate percentage of our sales are for vacant land. Those of you old enough, you may remember those ads when we were watching, cartoons and reruns after school, and there would be Ponch Poncharello, the guy from Chips, Eric Estrada shilling land for our grandparents up in Lake Shastina. I remember those ads well for a lot of communities up there in Northern California, the Northern Valley. We have a lot of those as clients. There's a lot of vacant land. A lot of it doesn't have water. Some of them are growing pot on there. We could do a lot of foreclosure for land. And so it's really less than 1%, or just about 1% of our files for actual houses ever get to foreclosure sale. So that's something I like to stress with board members. So going back to this barely the second step in the whole process, but it's the most important one, and it's the NODA, Notice of Delinquent Assessment. It's a different type of lien. It's the most important step in the process. It is critical that homeowner associations pay attention to their collection policy. And if the collection policy states that an owner should be sent to collections if they're 90 days late, then get them into collections. Start the process. Treat everybody the same. One board is going to be a different makeup than the next board, but their actions have to be consistent. You may have boards, well, we don't like to send people to collections. That's fine. You don't have to foreclose on them, but you've got to get the lien recorded. That is really part of your fiduciary responsibility, and you follow the collection policy. Dynamic amounts means that this lien, unlike other types of liens that are for a specific dollar amount, like a mechanics lien, dynamic means that if the association records a lien against homeowner Stefan on January 1st for $1,500, and Stefan doesn't pay in February, he doesn't pay in March, he makes a good-sized payment in April, he doesn't pay in May, and he puts his house up for sale in June, when we get the escrow demand, we're going to tell the title company the amount that he owes in June, not the amount that was recorded on the lien in January. And we account very carefully for late fees and interest charges and any partial payments that Stefan may have been making. We check with your accounting team. Hey, did any checks come in that we don't know about? Anything come in today before we give this dollar figure to the title company? Nope. Okay, here's the number. Back to that DeGillen case. This is where if a homeowner decides to file Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the trustee, instead of paying attention to how much the lien is worth today, because Davis Sterling says it's a dynamic or ongoing lien, the federal bankruptcy trustee only wants to know the dollar amount written on the lien. That's a problem, especially for associations that have higher assessment amounts. We've got some high rises in San Francisco that are, $4,000, $4,800 a month for their HOA dues. For them, it's important that we may have to record multiple liens. So to protect you and your associations, we have built in monitoring in our system that if our system picks up that a current assessment amount owing is a lot different than the amount of the lien that we originally recorded, or if it's been a very long time for whatever reason, maybe the owner has made some partial payments or some other shenanigans have gone in with that account, and there's been a long time since we recorded the lien, we're going to reach out to you and we're going to offer the board the opportunity to record another lien. And we'll talk to you about what the pros and cons are at that time. But just know that sometimes we may come to you and we may say, yeah, we recorded a lien. You might want to record another one. It's just really to protect in those rare instances that you think a homeowner might declare bankruptcy. Then this will protect the association further. And it is different than what we can, and I'll talk about this in a moment, a lien for large fine and violation accounts. That's an unusual occurrence, and we might be able to help further in that situation. Before I move on, I've been talking pretty much nonstop for about 30 minutes here. So does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I'll move on. When we record the lien, we send the association something called a collectability profile. For those of you that have been with Collins for a while, or maybe you're newer and you've got communities that have some pretty active lien activity, you will have already seen the collectability profile. But we do this because before the last housing crisis, it was pretty common for collection companies to just proceed to foreclosure. And that can be a really expensive bet by the association. We feel that once that lien is recorded, the association should get a lot of information about each separate account and choose, how do we want to proceed? The typical path is continuing along to foreclosure. And that's back to that other visual tool that I showed you, the chronology. In some cases, it's important to just take a pause and we've got the lien, we're secure, the board doesn't want to take any further action. There could be a variety of reasons that we'll talk about. Or it may make sense to take this homeowner to small claims court or superior court, or if there's a lender that's getting involved and they actually foreclose on the property, that eliminates these two, and we have to look at small claims in superior court. But let's take a look at what's on the collectability profile. If we're going to look at the non-judicial lien and foreclosure path, we're going to give you data on the lender that may have loaned all the money to buy this condo or this house. We're going to look at their payment history. Are they in default? Who else has a lien on here? And I'm going to show you some examples. Are they delinquent in their property taxes? That's not typically a problem here in California unless they're many years old. Most counties in California won't take a property to tax sale unless the taxes are delinquent 5 years or more. And we've got counties like Lake County where that tax assessor, he wants nothing to do with tax sales, and it's creating quite a problem over there. We're also going to take a look at equity and current property values, and if there are going to be any process service challenges. We want the board to know that up front. But what if we have to take this owner to court? Well, instead of just taking them to court, well, let's see if we can actually get some money out of them if we took them to court. Are they a resident of California? Are they a resident of the United States? Do they have bankruptcy history? Do they own any other property anywhere in California? Would we be able to levy bank accounts or even do wage garnishment? All of those things are important to know the board before making a decision. Here's what a collectability profile looks like. This is an actual sample. I just changed the names. They're current in their property taxes. They are not in default with their senior lender. They only have one lien. And I'll tell you, even though we're a licensed debt collector, we are not entitled to know the mortgage balance. We only get to know how much was taken out and when it was taken out. And I'll tell you, our team here will do a little calculation. If this loan had been taken out, 15 years ago, we would put a little estimated credit down here because, in 15 years, they will have likely made some principal payments. A loan this new, we don't know. It might have been, we're probably not going to give too much credit for principal here. They've been making a lot of interest-only payments here for the first few years. We're also going to pull something like Zillow or Redfin in more rural areas. We actually have to go to tax assessments to give some kind of an estimated property value. Here's where your board is going to look at this and go, 123 Shoreline Road, there's no way that thing will sell for $640. He's got tons of deferred maintenance. I saw the inside once. His kids have destroyed it. They'll be lucky to get, $525 out of that. And that's important for the board to weigh in on their own estimation. Or maybe this unit is on a fairway. Or a beautiful view lot, an end unit, or maybe it was a former model home, and so the landscaping is really nice. It could be worth a little more than that. That's just all the information that we're looking at there. We do also take a look at the owners themselves. We're looking at their ages. Deceased can be a problem. We can't personally serve a deceased owner. That could stop us in our tracks there. Bankruptcy history is important to know. But here, the fact that we could find 3 bank accounts and employment and other property for at least one of the other owners, it allowed our proprietary algorithms to score it at 7.5 out of 10. Foreclosure is still the best way to go. That scored 10 out of 10. Here's another quick example, but look at this one with a lot more liens. We found not only deed of trust, but it looks like he's got some immediate seconds and an IRS lien. This is important because the IRS lien came in before the association's lien. And the problem with that is that if we were to take it to foreclosure, the guy or the people on the courthouse steps with their guaranteed funds, they're going to do their own assessment. They're going to see that the property is only valued at $360. But if they bid on it and win, not only are they responsible for the mortgage, they'd be responsible for paying off this IRS lien too. Nobody's going to bid on this property with a negative equity position of nearly $30,000. So that means we're going to look at a very low score of 1 out of 10. And we've got a single owner, 1 bank account. We can find employment. He doesn't own anything else. We might be able to do wage garnishment. He's also only 35. If we took him to court, the judgment would be good for 10 years, and we could renew it again for another 5 years. So it's likely in the next 15 years, we might be able to obtain some additional funds from this owner. So here's an example of why we want the association to have this information before they make a decision. Let's get this guy out of here. Let's proceed with foreclosure. This is page 2. We always provide page 2 to your board members. It gives them a little discussion of just what we've talked about and what the different sections mean. So we're not just sending you this every time so that you have to explain it. We've got an explanation here for your board members. Also, you are welcome to call us when you get these collectability profiles in your inbox or in your board packets, and you want to feel the most prepared before you walk into that board meeting. Call us. Talk to us about it. We'll walk you through what we see on that collectability profile. That's what our team is here for. Civil recovery, that is always an option for associations. Small claims court, for those of you that have attended, I have heard it described as the wild, wild west of the American judicial system. You've got judges sometimes. You have judges pro tem other times. Judges pro tem might be an attorney. They might be a law clerk or volunteer from the community. And homeowners will stand up and they will say anything. And here we are with our evidence, and judges will sometimes give us everything that we've asked for, and sometimes, especially when it comes to fines and violations, judges don't really like those. So they cut those amounts pretty regularly. So if we go to court for fines and violations, we don't always expect to get 100% of what we're asking for. Really, if we're going to court for fines and violations, what we really want isn't the money, it's compliance. Superior court is for higher dollar amounts. Small claims court, of course, is only for $5,000, and you can take 2 of those per year, or everything else after your 2 for, after your 2 for $5,000, everything else has to be $2,500 or less. Superior court can be for any dollar amount. We typically do that for larger dollar amounts. Allied with our Superior Court program, we've never lost a case for delinquent assessments when we've gone to Superior Court. After the last housing crisis, when we had a lot of homes get foreclosed on, we used Superior Court because of just the large dollar amounts. Again, never lost one of those cases. Judgment recovery is something that I encourage you all to add to your checklist when you are acquiring an association from another management company, or if they were self-managed, check with those long-serving board members or check the files and see if you can find any old judgments. What Allied does is, whether it's a case that we helped you take to court or at some point in their past, we're looking to see, we'll do judgment recovery. We'll look to see if we can find bank accounts for those old cases. We'll look to see if we can find employment or other property anywhere in California. And this goes even for your current cases. Remember that guy that was just 35? Well, if we win a case against him and 6 years from now he gets married and 8 years from now they buy a house together, well, we're going to find that and we're going to attach an abstract of judgment in Fresno County where he and his new wife live. Or 12 years from now, Stefan inherits his grandparents' cabin in the Sierras. Well, as soon as Stefan's name shows up on title, we're going to throw an abstract of judgment on there as well. So it's really something important for you to put on your checklist for when you're acquiring new associations, because it's possible they got a judgment in the past and they're not doing anything with it. We recently sent out a check for $40,000 to a community that had changed management companies twice and had no board members that were around when Allied took that case to court. And they got a $40,000 check. They had no idea where it was coming from, and they were so happy because, of course, they'd written off those amounts years ago. We were very happy to send that check. Changing topics. What do you do with liens or what do you do with those large fine accounts? Do we take them to small claims court? Yes, we can. Can we put a lien on their property? Maybe. Ask us to review the governing documents. And really the goal here is to get the homeowner to change their behavior. Move your darn RV, fix your dang fence, whatever it is that they need to do. It's the behavior that you want to change. And if they're just not responding, maybe they'll respond if we send them a pre-civil letter, which means, hey, guy, we're going to take you to court. Maybe that'll get them into a board meeting to, all right, what do we need to fix this? Maybe we don't have to go any further. Maybe we do go to court. Or in some cases, we might be able to record what's called an unenforceable lien on their home. It doesn't grow in value like the delinquent assessment lien does. And the problem with that lawsuit against Swedelson and Gottlieb, we can't have the homeowner pay for that. The association has to foot the bill for recording an unenforceable lien on that non-compliant homeowner. But if his fines are up to $10,000 and the board is pulling out their hair and other homeowners in the community are mad and they're not changing their behavior, if the threat of a lawsuit isn't going to do anything, then let's see if we can throw a lien on their house. Maybe that'll get the compliance flag waving. Again, it's a tool to use. But call us and talk to us about it. Talk to us about your situation, and let's see what we can do for you. The last collection topic that we're going to talk about is called request for notice. There are a lot of Collins communities that have had us do this. During the last housing crisis, when a lender was foreclosing on your community, they might not tell you right away that they've done so, and you don't have any idea that there's a new owner in your community. And then they don't end up recording the transfer deed until months later when they sell that home in your community, along with a portfolio of 50 other homes that they foreclosed on in your county, to an investor. And now the only way for you to get that money back from that lender for all those months of missing dues is to try to take them to court. Well, if your community spends $640 for a one-time thing that we record with the county on every unit in the community, it means that if RFN flag is on every unit, that if a lender forecloses, they have to tell you within 15 days that they've done it, and they have to record the new deed within 30 days. If any of your communities that don't have RFN had lender foreclosure activity during that last downturn, they're a pretty good candidate that it's going to happen again. Or if you have a community that has a lot of units, then $640 is really a small amount to spend for this protection. If you've got 10 units in the community, maybe they can budget for it next year. But it's really valuable to do. And if you want to know if your communities have RFN attached, just send an email to inbox and give us a list of the communities that you manage. And we can check for that for you.
Hey, Stefan, this is Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
Hey, thank you for the awesome description of RFN.
Mhm.
That was also recently described to me when I was onboarding a new community, and I have moved to signing up several of my accounts for that.
Great.
Because I do see the value there, especially with home values. Let's just say they're tapering off at this time.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the future holds. It's cheap insurance for what might be coming down the line.
Yeah, it certainly is. I just recently talked to a mountain community, self-managed. They had no idea that RFN existed. They're reaching out to Allied to help them with collections. They're new to us. And they had 2 lender foreclosures already in the past 2 years that they knew nothing about. And so they're out about 5 months assessments on one and 8 months assessment on another one. And they're trying to figure out if they've got the funds to try to take these 2 lenders to court and whether they want to do it or not. They were delighted to know about RFN. They've already sent in their Allied Advantage Service Agreement with the RFN box checked. So that's a recent experience.
And for the managers, if your community, if your community has a lot of non-owner occupied homes in there, those are typically the first homes to get foreclosed on, the non-primary residences. So if you've got 25% or higher non-owner occupied in there, you'll want to talk to your board about signing up for RFN.
I will send an email after this. I'm going to put a couple of attachments in it. One of them will be that chronology that I showed you, all the statutorily required steps. I will also put on an RFN flyer and FAQ sheet. It's just a 2-page item. I'll email those out to Paul and ask them to get them out to the team, just so you can have some additional information on it.
Thank you.
Last up is the, oh yeah, you're sure welcome. Last up is the My Allied portal. This is where managers can go. Now, your accounting team is brilliant at taking care of submitting files, keeping everybody on track. But you also, as a manager, you have the ability to log in, and we can create a login credentials for you. And we just put your communities that are in your portfolio, we attach them to your My Allied profile. You can log in, you can it's real time. So you can log in from your phone. It's not an app. It's just a very simple looking, clean web page. It'll load up with your real-time status. Let's say you prepared your board packet for a Thursday meeting, but you prepared the board packets on Monday, and you've got an owner that you're waiting to see if they make a payment. Well, you can log in here, and if your owner called in this morning at 10 o'clock and made a payment, as soon as my colleagues in the customer service team are done making their notes, it'll appear here in My Allied. You'd see that they make a payment. It's real easy. Just go into alliedtrustee.com, you click the login button, type in your email address. If you forgot your password, if we've made it for you, click the forgot password link. It immediately sends you an email. The team, you've got access to us from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. You will hardly ever experience a hold time, and even more rare will you get a voicemail. And we want to hear from you. We want your questions. If you email us at inbox, we try to get back to those. If they come in before lunch, we try to return those emails the same day. Otherwise, we ask for 1 business day. But phone calls, we want you to call in. If you've got questions, we want to hear from you. That's important to us. And there's one other thing that I'd show you. And it's just a real-time display. Let me share once more. This is the full, has it come up yet? Yep. This is the full Collins management page. So this is what your accounting team sees when they log in. If there's something important, it's called an action item. It means that what you sent it out to Collins 30 days ago, and we've got something here that we need someone to address. Here's where you can go to get your status reports. It's super easy to pull those up. Any of your orders, we have access to all of those online. Let me show you really quickly what that looks like. Let me just get your page to load. You guys have a lot of files with us, so it takes just a second. So let's see. Let's look at those are all new files. Here's one that's in the pre-lien stage. Gosh, you got a lot of new files with us. Let me look at something that's maybe an NOD. Here's what's an NOD.
Woohoo, one of mine.
So here's what you see. It's a real easy overview. We're giving you our account number, your internal account number, owner name, address, what's the current status. It's in the NODA period. What does that mean? Well, here's your timeline of everything that we've done for this account. And if you hover your cursor, it kind of tells you what that is. We are right now at the yellow stage. We're in the NODA waiting period, which over here, here's when we received the file, February 10th. We had some back and forth to straighten out some accounting. It went into the pre-lien period from the 21st to the 31st of March. We recorded a lien on this property on April 6th. Now, because of David Sterling, we have a 30-plus day waiting period. So we recorded the lien. And we notice of delinquent assessment sent to record. So you even have access here in documents. We've sent you the authorization to record the NODA. If you wanted to see the declaration of mailing, this is something that would go to court with us. If your homeowner was, wanting to make sure that we did all the proper steps, we've got copies of everything in here. When we get a copy of the lien back from the county, we'll pop it into this file. So if you ever have a board member that says, I want to see a copy of that lien, well, you've got it right there. So it's real time. It's got a lot of access. And if you had a question about this account and you were sitting there in your board meeting, you just click on the submit question button, type in your question. Not only do we send you a copy of the question that you asked, but when we respond with the answer, we'll not only email you the answer, but we'll post the answer in the question section. So you have a permanent record of your Q&A. So it's a pretty cool tool. If you're not currently using it, send us an email or give us a call and we'll set you up and we'll put all your communities on your profile.
Thank you, Stephen, for pointing that out, because I know you guys do very good about emailing the managers and the note that needs to be signed and everything like that, but it is right there on the website. And I love that you pointed that out because, all managers have access to that. I make sure when we bring a new manager on that they're added to there and then their association is set up. So everyone should be up to date, except for the new person that came on who's an assistant. So I'll be adding him shortly.
Great.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, sure. Questions? I've talked pretty solid for 60 minutes. I do get paid by the word, so it's going to be a really good invoice for me today. I made a lot of money in the last 60 minutes.
It was great. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, you're sure welcome. I know this is a very dry subject. I try to get to the important things. We at Allied, we don't expect you all to be experts on this, but I've tried to design the information so that you have an understanding that there's a lot of law back here that you don't need to know, but just an awareness that it's there and it's what directs us in how we handle your owners. There are some specific do's and don'ts, and we try to make sure that we're all within the boundaries of that playground, and we're not stepping out of the yard. I can't stress enough, when you've got questions, if you're looking at a collectability profile and you're not sure what it means, pick up the phone and call us. We are on the phone with your colleagues all day, every day, trying to make sure that you feel supported when you're about to go into a board meeting. You also have the ability to hand our phone number off to your board members. Some of you like to be the real conduit for information. You may have board members that you would be better served by just turning them loose on us. We are happy to take those phone calls from you.
Nicole and
And of
Justin
course,
are
if you-
great with that.
Thanks. Yeah, we've got
I
a
call
good
them
team.
often, so.
Yeah, I've taken some of your phone calls, Danielle, when I have to
Yes.
cover phones. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, thank you all for your time and attention. I really do appreciate it. We also really appreciate the working relationship with Collins. It's been many, many years that a lot of your communities have asked to work with Allied. If you ever have a problem, you don't hesitate to call us. If you have a problem with Allied, don't hesitate to call me. We want to make sure that we work things through well. We're proud sponsors of your foundation. We have had occasion to utilize it, and we are just really, really happy with the way that you guys run your business. So thanks for letting us be a part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's lunchtime.
Thanks, guys.
Have at it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.